You are listening to We Saw the Devil, an investigative and conversational true crime podcast that deep dives into fascinating criminal cases that are solved, unsolved, or ongoing. From America's Lori Vallow to Germany's Armin Meiwes, we examine and discuss the world's most shocking cases. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to follow us online. Check us out at WeSawTheDevil.com and We Saw the Devil on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget, you can become part of the show by backing us on Patreon. Hello everyone, and welcome to We Saw the Devil. This is Robin.
And this is Jackie. I want to start off by saying thank you for being here, Robin. And I want to also apologize for the echo. We do not have our recording set up completed yet. What a trip it's been. Mm-hmm. What a trip it has been. And I'm so glad 2020 is over.
It has been a hellscape of a 2020. And I'm glad that we are now in 2021.
The worst year of our lives.
To quickly recap, guys. As you know, if you're on Twitter, Instagram, any social media, back in early November, my mom got sick. Both my parents went into assisted living. They both came down with COVID, and my mom passed away the week of Christmas. Apparently, COVID wreaks havoc with dementia, and now my dad has no idea who I am. So it has been a literal freaking shit show.
But there's some positives, right, Robin?
There have been some positives.
Well, we have new recording equipment.
We do.
We get to kind of revitalize all of this and kind of reconstruct how we're doing things and entertain you way better. And two, your dad got into a good facility for assistant living, right?
He did. So finalize that today, guys. It has just been, we waited on new equipment, as Jackie said. So we're finally able to record. We don't have an official studio set up as of yet, which we did have previously. But things are looking up. We finally got it. News of my dad today.
Stimulus checks.
Looking at you, Georgia. Good news today. And just overall, things do appear to be looking better. Following up on that, our 2021
is a new beginning. Together, Robin. Together.
We're going to have content on a schedule weekly. There was a lot, with my parents going on behind the scenes for the last couple months, even predating all of this, that I hadn't talked about.
But you did talk a lot about it in the Patreon only episode that we just are releasing, like right now as we are speaking. It's like being released right now, like Robin's clicking buttons and it's happening.
If you guys want to hear the full story of like everything that has gone wrong at the end of 2020 in my life, as well as how awful the road trip.
And how interesting the road trip was. If you want to hear more about that, we are here for you, and we will be so happy if you could just sign up for Patreon and just click a listen. little listen click, right?
Yeah, if you are in the mood to make feel better about your 2020, if that's even possible, if you need that, feel free to use me.
It is fine.
Yeah. So that being said, and for those of you who are like, I don't like long intros, get to talking. You know what? You can deal
hold
with this
hold the phone, okay?
Yeah, hold the phone.
We went through a terrorist attack, okay? And we lost the internet.
Fuck, we forgot to talk about that.
You don't know the post-apocalypse and what it's like without internet, okay? Like, you have gone low, and you can't wake up and Google something. You're like, oh man, I gotta use my brain today.
Oh my god.
How am I gonna entertain myself? Oh, I'm gonna get the little game boards out. We're gonna play Sorry, it's 2020.
Oh my god, yeah. It was, and again, to those of you who are like, get on with it, piss off for a minute. This is our time.
You already told him to go away, Robin.
I'm doing it twice.
Wasn't once good enough?
No, it was not. So not only did my mom die, not only was her funeral the day after Christmas, also, on Christmas Day, we had the freaking bombing here. We had a terrorist attack
as
here
you were writing the eulogy for your mother.
As I was writing the eulogy for my mom, we had a terrorist attack, and all internet and phone went out all over the city.
I couldn't even pick up Lowe's.
Yeah, Jackie couldn't even pick up. Also in the middle of remodeling the house and whatnot, Jackie couldn't go to Lowe's. She was real pissed about that. Had no internet, no phone. So guys, when I say it has been a shit show of a year, it was a shit show of a year. We had no internet for 4 days?
Yeah, and meanwhile, Robin tried to Thelma and Louise us over a cliff while driving too much on the road trip. My way of venting is by doing things, and I wanted to go to Lowe's. I made an online purchase, and little did I know that online purchase, they had no phone. And I couldn't get my curbside pickup.
Yeah, just so you guys know that half the world relies on AT&T. So if there is ever a bombing, a terrorist attack, someone tries to take out that grid, you're not going to have phone service. So I highly suggest you do better than we did without internet service.
Well, we didn't select AT&T. It was actually like kind of
Pre-installed, yeah.
We would have never had AT&T. Just so you know, we're not like that. We're not those people. And if you're one of those people, rethink that, because there's something a little bit faster than AT&T out there, because they're only like 25 megabytes per second, okay?
Yeah, it's real slow. We had to upgrade that to Comcast.
No, 1 gig, baby.
I know we are all over the place, guys, but I have to say that this is the first time we've recorded for probably almost a month now because
I have
of
a lot of
everything.
energy.
I do too.
I haven't spoken out to you guys in forever, and I'm just like, I want friends.
Yeah. How are all of you? First of all, I would like to preface everything in this episode by saying thank you. The kindness that we have experienced through all of this and announcing it has just been so humbling and beautiful and amazing. And so I would like to thank each and every one of you who has been patient with us, dropping episodes, taking a break, emailed, sent words of support. Multiple of you who I've never even met before messaged on Instagram, and you're like, "Hey, I hope you're doing well, and things are getting better." So
and other podcasts have reached out too. And you know what? I have to say that energy has really kept me going.
Yeah, I have to thank Reverie True Crime and Paige, Eileen from Shattered Window and Crime Lapse, Mackenzie from Death by Champagne, and also Emily from Morbidology reached out as well. So thank you guys so much. The podcast community is amazing, and the true crime community is amazing, and we love all of you.
We love you all, and thank you again.
Yes, thank you. That being said, like Jackie said, if you are interested in our Patreon, we are back. We are bolstering our Patreon. We are back, guys. Like, we're back with gloves on. Check us out on Patreon. Postcards, true crime gifts, exclusive episodes, ad-free episodes, all that cool good stuff. We're going to up the ante this year for 2021, get even cooler stuff out to you guys in cooler cases.
Because it's a new beginning.
It is. It's a new beginning. So check it out if you're interested. And beyond that, as always, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by looking up We Saw the Devil.
We saw the devil.
Now, coming up this week, guys, we are going to do a massive Lori Vallow update later in this week, probably for Friday's episode. So much is going on. We were in the middle of the road trip when all the Lori Vallow news hit. We couldn't do anything about it. We got here, terror attack, and couldn't do it. So there is a hearing tomorrow, and we will be doing a full update episode on everything that's transpired over the last couple weeks, coming out later this week. This episode, as you probably already know from the title, is basically like 2020, kind of a best of, year in review, the coolest things and pieces of it. So let's talk about that. We're going to do a sort of top 10 list, like the top 10 true crime items from the year 2020. Okay, so number 10, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Number 10 is Abducted in Plain Sight. And it is literally the most what the fuck show. And I love the memes. The memes from this show gave me life.
The WTF?
It did. It was the most WTF because it is about a family. There's a family friend, and he befriends the family, and somehow he is having sex with the mom. Convinced the husband, a straight man, to give him a blowjob. And then also, and he did this in order to groom their child, who he ended up kidnapping like 80 times and taking and having sex with this young girl.
I'm literally standing here with my mouth open.
Yeah, like it was just every twist and turn, and people try to make excuses and say, well, that time period was different, child abuse and all that kind of stuff wasn't taken any differently. No, there's no excuse for the level of batshittery that occurs in Abducted in Plain Sight.
Let me say, this is darker than I thought it would be, because I'm kind of a sci-fi nerd and I like aliens, and it sounds like an alien title, Abducted in Plain Sight.
If only we could be so lucky.
But that is not the case.
It was not the case. Not the case at all. Number 9, Unsolved Mysteries came back.
I don't know how I felt about the intro at first, and then it kind of grew on me. But I really loved the style and how they updated the recording design.
Really?
The reenactments weren't so bad. I mean, unless you wanted to go real cheesy.
I think it was all really good. So I think the production value is super, super, super good. I am definitely missing Robert Stack. Robert Stack was perfection. I remember watching Unsolved Mysteries when I was a kid, and that just the beginning
was so creepy.
So creepy.
Even though, like, by the time it got around to me, I was a little bit like, it was a little outdated for me. I think it was still on air, but
It was super outdated. However, it scared the shit out of me. There was one segment. Remember they used to do paranormal?
Oh my god, did you know their last episode was 2010?
I did not know that.
What? But it felt so old. Well, that's
1987 to 2010. That's crazy.
Yeah, like I felt like it was outdated when I was like 10 years old.
Right. It definitely had the 80s feel to it. But the opening credits were amazing. Not sure how I feel about this one. Now, I have seen we watched all of season 1 and a couple episodes from season 2. Honestly, guys, I just lost interest. Like, it's just not my favorite.
But there was a few that you just really were like, how did this not get solved? Because you were trying to solve it.
Yeah, the Ray case where he went through the ceiling of the
right, and I'm like in my head, I'm trying to I'm trying to calculate the projection of his body.
Yeah, same here, and how that would have occurred that way.
I'm like, okay, if I take the logarithm as this, his body should lay right here, and it didn't work out quite much.
No, there were a couple really cool cases. Especially the French family, the husband who likely, murdered his whole family and the family dog and went on the lam and apparently has been spotted in Chicago, from what I hear.
Oh, yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was really crazy.
But, I mean, everyone becomes a sleuth when you watch Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that's my favorite part. If you are in the group on Facebook, I'm High and This is True Crime, they frequently discuss cases from the show. And it's really fun to see other people's theories on this.
Oh, absolutely.
That was our number 9. Number 8 is Julian Maxwell. Now, over the summer, she was finally arrested, if you guys recall. First of all, Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. Number 2, so after all of that, Julian Maxwell, his longtime girlfriend / assistant / co-rapist. I mean, she's an utter piece of trash.
I mean, we can just call her like a walking turd.
Yes. So over the summer, she was finally arrested. She was arrested at her estate in Bradford, New Hampshire. And she was charged with, quote, transporting a minor for purposes of criminal or sexual activity.
You don't say.
Conspirating to entice minors to travel to engage in illegal sex acts, as well as perjury. And my favorite part of this entire story is that when she was on her estate, she actually wrapped her cell phone in tinfoil to avoid detection.
Did it work?
No, because they still got her.
Okay, well that's not an old burger. It doesn't work out.
Yeah,
so you can't just put that under a heat lamp and call it good.
It did not work for her, but guys, I have to say that one of the only good parts of the end half of 2020 is that she has not been murdered yet. She's still alive.
Why?
Right?
I'm sorry, I'm cruel, but why?
Yeah, why? I don't understand, but it is what it is, I guess. But I look forward to her spilling the tea and everything coming out because, I mean, with what she's facing, it's not like a light tap on the wrist or light sentence. So
she deserves whatever's coming to her. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it's something that is heavy.
Mm-hmm. This may be a controversial pick, our number 7. Everyone, and we mentioned it on our show earlier too, The Vow, NXIVM, Keith Raniere, all of that crap. We watched The Vow in its entirety, and I have to say, I was bored. I was bored out of my mind.
It had a bad bias.
Yeah, and it just overall, it horrible bias with Mark and other people.
Just her perspective was just so too lighthearted for what was actually happening.
It really was.
It's interesting to get the perspective, but you don't need to drag out 5 episodes like you're watching a fight scene in Dragon Ball Z.
Right. It was long and tedious, and it was an arduous journey to get through that series. So I was really excited because one of the pieces that they talk about in The Vow was India Oxenberg. And I really wanted to know more about her story. She seemed so kind and sweet. And then her mom, Catherine Oxenberg, who was the ex soap opera star, did a lot of public facing pleas for India, her return, her to leave DOS.
I think that's such a beautiful name, India.
I do too. So the show Seduced Inside the NXIVM Cult. I believe it came out on Stars. Please do not just crucify me if I got that wrong. But it's Seduced Inside the NXIVM Cult. And the entire show is about India Oxenberg and her mom, Catherine Oxenberg, And basically, India peeling back the layers and talking about everything. And it has a lot of guest interviews.
But it summarizes everything so beautifully. You don't have to wait 12 episodes and not find out anything. You actually find out things each episode, and it has a great build-up, and it actually really layers out all of the... It just peels back the Band-Aid slowly rather than just, like, ripping it off and be like, well, there it was.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, in the very first episode, there's so much juicy, good footage of Keith Raniere privately, right? Like him one-on-one with India, or him doing a private DOS gathering or NXIVM gathering. It's so intimate. The footage that they managed to produce for that. And then on top of that, you have Catherine and India and their story. And, you know, I feel like that was a better representation of what's going on. So, like, whereas Mark is hailed as a sort of hero in The Vow, he's literally shown to be the shit stain that he was.
Yeah, he was
seduced.
Well, I mean, like, come on. In The Vow, he was definitely not how he portrayed himself. And if we haven't convinced you yet to see it, you should definitely check it out if you are interested in NXIVM at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing information. A lot of like way better explanation of how DOS itself worked, the sex cult part of it.
Yeah, they left that out.
Yeah. So I mean,
Convenient.
it's just. I'm sorry. If you're interested in NXIVM, do not watch The Vow. I mean, go ahead if you want to and you're bored, but check out Seduced Inside the NXIVM Cult. I think it's on Stars, and trust me, it is 100% worth your time.
Well, this next one's a doozy, isn't
God. Center. Peace. Going to my happy place.
I'm thinking of more of like leopard print. I don't know why, but every time I hear this name, instead of seeing what the word is, I see leopard print.
Ugh.
And trailers.
Lots and lots of trailers.
Yes, and little. I also see in my future. I'm a little bit Miss Cleo here, but I also see pink flamingos on a lawn for some reason. Anyway, you'll know what it is in a moment.
So. Number 6 is Tiger King, and we can't just skip over it. This is not a favorite from either of us. That is 100% right.
I would say that Tiger King isn't a favorite, but there's something charming about some guy who wears muscle shirts and looks like he smells bad with a mullet, and he's shooting into a lake for no reason. I mean, it just starts off that way. I mean, he's just crazy.
He's crazy, and I didn't find him endearing in any capacity, and so that's why I really didn't understand, I guess, why it became such an immediate cult phenomenon. I just chucked it up to like, we're all screwed at home in this pandemic under quarantine, and there's not a lot else to do, but like, I just don't find him interesting. The most interesting piece of that entire show to me was how his eyebrow ring managed to stay in his eyebrow, because that shit migrated to the very, very edge.
Oh my God.
Like, it was moving on up.
It had a life of its own.
It did. But I don't care about the storyline. I just do not care. I think everybody involved in that entire thing is a scumbag for the most part.
But is Carol Baskin a scumbag?
Yeah, she's still a scumbag. Did she kill, or was she involved in her ex-husband's death? I don't know, and frankly, I don't care. You know why? Because he was also a scumbag. So like, I don't care.
So it sounds like Robin is on the side of, if they all walked off of a plank into a caldera of volcanic of magma or lava, she probably wouldn't care.
No, I wouldn't. However, it is really funny, I do believe, that Carol Baskin is on Cameo. So if you are looking for a cameo, Carol Baskin will do her stupid, hello there, cats and kittens, and wear her stupid, wreath headdress. So yeah, so if you want to do that for like $5,000, hit it up. But Tiger King, unfortunately, had to be mentioned in this list. Number 5 is Keith Raniere again, and NXIVM as a whole. There's just this whole case, guys.
Shit.
Yeah, holy shit. So in October, Keith Raniere, the leader of NXIVM, sex predator and cult leader extraordinaire, was sentenced to 120 years in prison for sexual exploitation of a child, human trafficking, and racketeering. And in a oh my god moment from 2020, Claire Bronfman, the Seagram's gin heiress, remember her? The nerdy one with the glasses that like something was clearly wrong with?
Yeah.
Was sentenced to 81 months.
Bitch, we never trusted you.
No, ever. We knew. So that was actually a shocking sentence for her as well. Allison Mack, who's also a massive scumbag in this entire debacle, her sentencing, if I am correct, I believe, is to be determined. We don't know yet.
In case you forgot, Seduce is the good one, right?
Seduce is the good one, yeah, in case you've already forgotten the last, 5 minutes. But yeah, so this entire case, I think that women as a whole are so used to not seeing justice prevail in cases like these that a lot of women didn't actually have hope that he would be properly brought to justice, that his sentence wouldn't be fit.
It would be like, okay, well, you're going to go to jail for 6 months now, and then you're going to go and do what you want to do in your life.
Especially with a treasure chest from basically the Seagram's, Jen fortune. I mean, he had tens of millions of dollars. But
she even only went to school, went to prison for 81 months.
Yeah, that's true. He got 120 years.
He wasn't rich enough.
Yeah. So glad. I know that Facebook and social media exploded when he was sentenced. And, as a woman who does not see this nearly enough, very, very, very happy.
Speaking of women and love.
Our number four pick, and this is a documentary that actually brought me to tears multiple times. I found that it was so impactful, really interesting. And now this is a case that has been beaten to death like a dead horse. No pun intended in any way. But it's just so overdone. The material on this, the amount of podcasts, documentaries, movies, it's just like, holy shit, guys, stop with the new content. This documentary, Falling for a Killer, Elizabeth Kendall, Ted Bundy's ex-girlfriend, came and they did a documentary, Falling for a Killer, about her relationship with Ted Bundy. Now, this was the content that I need.
Well, and it was new. No one's actually done it from this angle, or at least with this level of expertise.
Right. It was beautifully, beautifully shot, interviewed. Elizabeth Kendall, that's not her real name. They met in 1969. Elizabeth was a single mother who was new in town in Seattle. Ted Bundy asked her to dance, and then basically the rest was history. They were pretty much inseparable. The documentary has interviews with Karen Sparks, who was one of the University of Washington students that survived having Ted Bundy smash her skull in with a metal rod.
Oh my God, that was so emotional. I cried.
I sobbed. He even used that metal rod, if you recall, to sexually assault her.
I don't even want to think about it.
So having this woman, and this was her very first public interview, and having her sit there and recount those details, I sobbed. I cried.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm just so sad for her.
Yeah. And she has, partial blindness, partial deafness. She says that her head rings all the time. And it was just a really, really intense interview, and probably one of the best series I've seen as far as, for behind the scenes, kind of information and details.
And sad because, when you see something like that, right? And she's disabled for the rest of her life because this is extremely traumatic event, and surviving a serial killer is so intense.
Yeah.
And now she can barely function as a human, hearing and seeing and stuff. I'm just oh my God, please make it stop. That is so sad.
It was so sad. She made me cry. And then don't forget, there was a lot of blowback actually against Elizabeth Kendall for doing this documentary. And I personally find her, if her account of all of these events, if they were true, I find her to be brave for coming out and being like, you know what, I was with Ted Bundy.
Yeah, no, that's extremely brave.
I mean, they were, on the verge of basically getting engaged, and her daughter also was crazy. Her daughter was a young child, and Ted Bundy was her father growing up when she was a child. And so hearing basically just all of their stories from their time with Ted.
It's things that you have never thought to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Anyway, check it out, right?
Check it out. That is a definite must watch. If you're looking for something, Falling for a Killer, I think there's 6 episodes, something like that. It's very long. And then it also gives a really good overview of what policing was like during that time too.
Oh yeah, that's not something you actually
because don't forget, there was, female detectives, and women were new, and the one female detective tried to get into the FBI and they rejected her because they don't take women. I mean, it's just overall, it paints such a good picture at the time. Anything else on Falling for a Killer?
Speaking of Falling for a Killer, Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, so Harvey Weinstein, I mean, his old, ugly, raisinette, disgusting ass finally went to trial, and he was sentenced to 23 years in prison.
23 years.
Yep. And now he's facing a new charge in New York, and I hear there's rumblings of another charge that's coming out of California. Also, the best news, because he is such a douchebag, he has contracted coronavirus twice. Twice. Maybe third time will be a charm, you never know. Now, I would like, for number 2 pick, to speak to the best documentary I have ever seen in my entire life. And if you haven't seen it, then I'm going to have you take a half day, like, off from everything, clear your calendar, and prepare to be simultaneously enthralled and just devastated. It's called November 13, Attack on Paris. And it chronicles the November 13th, 2015 terror attacks on Paris. So it goes in full chronological order. I know most of you remember the Bataclan, right? That bombing at the theater that killed, that entire series killed over 100 people. What you may not be aware is that there were many attacks in Paris that night. It started with bombs outside the soccer stadium, and then it moved to shootings at restaurants, and then suicide bombings in restaurants. The Bataclan was the culmination. That was like the final event. And if you recall, the Eagles of Death metal were playing, and all of a sudden, a bunch of like AK-47 wielding terrorists went into the concert hall and just started mowing people down. If you recall, it was very similar to the 2017 Las Vegas shooting. Remember where Stephen Paddock, that old 64-year-old man, basically went up to the top of Mandalay Bay in a suite and then just started like indiscriminately slaughtering people on a very, very small scale as far as comparison. But a handful of terrorists went into the Bataclan and they just started mowing people down in the middle of a very loud concert.
Didn't they also set it on fire, or did it catch on fire?
They set off a bomb and then it ended up catching on
out of control.
Fire.
Like some people were just like running for their lives. It's so scary.
Yes, it was absolutely terrible. 130 victims perished just in that.
God.
130 people.
Imagine having to show up and be like, is there any survivors here?
Mm-hmm. So 130, just for scale, guys, the Las Vegas shooting, how big of a deal that was, that only had 60 deaths, not including the perpetrator.
I mean, we can't say only. That's a lot.
That's a lot. But in comparison to the French attacks that night, they lost 130. They lost more than double that. So in just a couple hours.
But you also had a bomb and fire, like total chaos.
Total chaos. So I've always been fascinated as someone, is a French major, has been in France and experienced a lot of that. Like I've always been fascinated. But this one hit me really super hard. So the documentary has interviews with everyone involved. I mean, it starts with like the ex-president, family members of victims, survivors, first responders, and politicians. And I cried, like cried, like ugly cried. Like,
hasn't Paris been through enough?
Right. Like I was pretty much damn near inconsolable because when you're watching this documentary, it has all of these survivors. Some of them got shot. Some of them are crawling around, and they're describing the blood that's pouring all over them from like people that they were talking to, or family members got killed right in front of them. And one of the saddest things I've ever heard in my entire life, this girl, she was a heavier girl, and her boyfriend, they managed to run off of the floor and make it into a bathroom. And they heard a terrorist coming. They heard him coming through the doors. Their only way out was to go through the ceiling. And she said, I'm too heavy to get up there. I can't make it. And so at that moment, she made basically a decision and she said, I'm going to fucking die. Go.
Oh my God.
And the rest of the people hoisted her up into the air duct system. And then they made it out alive.
Wow.
And like one person didn't make it. No. And the terrorist got them in the bathroom. And it's just like
survivor's guilt.
Yeah. And seeing her cry and being like, I'm making this decision to stay and die. So all of you, I mean, it's just like horrible. The most intimate, like just insanely just painful interviews I've ever seen. And in the second episode, there are 2 episodes in the series. The second is basically the aftermath of all. I'm sorry, there are 3 episodes in the series for this. And in the third one, it basically does the aftermath of laws that have changed, how people came together. It, reunites a lot of the victims to talk to one another. So it's just like the best documentary, period, about anything I've ever seen.
In case you missed it, it's the best documentary
Ever. So again, November 13, Attack on Paris. And that was our number 2 because we have a number 1 spot.
And in the number 1 spot, drum roll, is...
I wonder if any of you guys can guess.
I mean, really?
This is our show, after all.
So it is.
Lori Vallow.
Who's that?
Lori Vallow.
Can you come again?
Lori Vallow. And guys, okay, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I started getting real over Lori Vallow. Like, I just really kind of got over talking about her, thinking about her, this case. I mean,
you became her.
I'm
just kidding.
Oh my God,
I'm kidding. Your children are safe around Robin. It's okay.
Or are they?
Dun, dun, dun.
I just got over it. Like, I got burnt out on this freaking case because every day it seemed like there was a new update. Our show got known for the Lori Vallow case, which, you guys, I really appreciate you listening. I'm not saying I don't.
She loves the Lori Vallow. She just got burnt out a little. Got burnt out a little.
So as I was making this list and I was trying to think of, the coolest things from 2020, obviously Lori Vallow came to mind. And with a fresh perspective, I was able to kind of just think about it. That is one of the most batshit insane cases I've ever heard of. Like, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what else rivals Lori Vallow case? And I can't think of anything. Like, sure, we have the consensual cannibals. We've got, the bath salts folks.
We did hear about this woman where, like, in Russia, right? That ended up feeding her children, like, human flesh jelly as candy.
Yeah. That's
pretty bad. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty bad. But that's not Lori Vallow level of, like,
just ongoing what the fuck.
Crazy eyes.
Yeah.
She has the craziest eyes I've ever seen.
Yeah, and this is just the case that keeps on giving. You have Mormonism, you have a suspected cult, you have the
well, you have like the off the grid, like, Idaho lifestyle that you have to understand. They lived in the middle of, like, nowhere.
Yeah,
like, there wasn't much.
The cult, you have Chad Daybell, you have 2 children, and it was kind of like, we've been covering it since very close to the beginning.
It impacted a lot of you who lived in the area, and I loved hearing from all of you.
Oh my God, I love hearing the first-hand accounts and of people who live there. It impacted so many people. But
their hometown murder, Robin. It
is your home. I mean, I can't imagine that Idaho has a lot of terrible happenings, so for this case to be based there, that's, I'm sure, pretty intense for you guys. But yeah, I mean, there are just so many crazy characters in the Lori Vallow case. I just can't. And it's just every week keeps on giving. Bless Justin Lum for posting all the court documents. Nate from East Idaho News has done a great job with his interviews. I mean, for a rookie from Idaho to have this case hoisted upon you and then to suddenly
it's a lucky break, yeah. I hate to say it, unlucky, lucky break.
No, it's true. But I mean, it's pretty impressive. So I would have to say that Lori Vallow is just the craziest thing from 2020 that I can think of.
We're going to get inoculated and we're going to go to a hearing.
Yep, we're going to go to the trial.
We're going to the trial. Surprise. We're going to the trial. Sorry, I messed up. But we know people. Like, we know people now. We know people who will go with us.
Yeah, that's true.
We know you guys who live locally, and we're really excited. And I am so glad to have been able to spend time in Rexburg and see BYU and just see their stomping grounds and you guys and where you live. And it's been really cool. And I have to say, BYU has some cool, like, little hangout spots, like a yogurt place. I mean, yeah. Thanks for the yogurt place, guys.
Yeah, so that was our top 10 of 2020, just pieces that we found most interesting or most important, I guess, like most influential pieces from 2020. Yeah.
Lori Vallow, who's looking at you?
Looking at you, kid.
Your face is melting off in jail, but here's looking at you, kid.
We are looking at her, and we got a portal.
Well, if only she had a portal to get out of there.
I know.
Now she's talking through the bowl.
God. Okay. So again, I'm just going to add on like an addendum to this. And this is, runner up. Is it from 2020 or 2019?
I have no
I don't even
clue.
give a shit. Jailbirds on Netflix. It is basically just kind of a documentary on life in Sacramento prison, a Sacramento jail. And it is hilarious. So lots and lots of good pop culture references in that show.
If you watch it, Please drop us a pun about talking through the bowl, please.
Yes. If you've seen it and you understand what talking through the bowl is, please let us know and drop something. So that wraps it up for this week, guys. We thought we'd do a light one. Again, we have our special Patreon episode that also was released tonight, and this one is on the fast food killer. So if you were interested in that, this sounds spicy to you.
And you want to hear about our road trip and hear the,
full story of everything that's been going on with us for the last month, sign up for Patreon as little as $3, and
a cup of coffee gives us some hope.
Yeah, definitely gives us some hope. And what is hope, we hope turns out to be a much better year. So guys, again, thank you so much for listening. Again, thank you for everyone who reached out to us with words of support.
You keep us going.
Yeah, no, seriously, you guys keep us going. If you've noticed the higher energy in this episode,
we missed you.
We missed you.
Really, I've been lonely.
Yeah, she has.
I actually have a volleyball that I painted a face on, and I've named it Our Viewers. Yeah. And I'm like, I miss you.
You think she's kidding. But thanks again, guys. And we will see you later this week with a Lori Vallow update episode, like mega update episode, really.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be condensed. I mean, unfortunately, things happen while on the road, and we couldn't do it. So.
Yep. Thanks again, guys.
Until next crime.
You are listening to We Saw the Devil, an investigative and conversational true crime podcast that deep dives into fascinating criminal cases that are solved, unsolved, or ongoing. From America's Lori Vallow to Germany's Armin Meiwes, we examine and discuss the world's most shocking cases. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to follow us online. Check us out at WeSawTheDevil.com and We Saw the Devil on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget, you can become part of the show by backing us on Patreon.